Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Rachel here from Rach&BellaCrafts. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how I bind my journal. So we're going to continue working on the giveaway journal. And if you haven't already entered the giveaway, by the way, go and check out our other videos. There's one, it'll be one further down in our video list. We are running a giveaway. We'll be giving away this botanical journal and 2 other journals. There's a video there with all the details. Go and have a quick look. So if you haven't yet entered, you've got a few days left to be able to do that, okay? For this today, to bind my journal, I am going to be using my cork, my needle, a large needle, an awl, and my binding thread. Before I do that though, I am just going to check through that I'm happy with the order my pages are in, and just double check that there's nothing else that I want to do to them. So for example, I may add some stitching to the edges of some of the pages, and also just checking that if we've got short pages like this is the time now to make sure that they're where you want them to be. So for instance, that one there, I'm going to move that up slightly. I am going to add a little stitch to this page here, so I'll take that out in a second and do that. Okay, that's fine there. Yep, happy with those. Again, just making sure that it really doesn't matter with shorter pages whether you have them level at the bottom, whether you have them in the middle. I think a bit of a variation is quite nice sometimes, so I might actually seat that like that, so you can't quite see what's on the next page. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to put a stitch on the end of that as well. This is just the time to look before you bind your pages into your cover. This is just the time to just double check if there's anything that you want to add through. So for instance, if you're going to put an envelope in there, you might want to tuck that under and that be part of the binding. If you want to stitch any of the ends of the pages, now is the time really to do that, because it's quite difficult once it's in the cover for you to be pulling pages out. Okay, so I'm happy with the order. I'm going to just nip over to the sewing machine and just stitch the edge of some of the pages with some nice coloured thread, and then I will show you how I'm going to bind. Okay, won't be long. Okay, so that's done now. Before I put the signature into the journal, I'm just going to quickly run through with you how I've stitched my pages, and just give you an explanation really of some different ways in which you can do that. I know some of you have mentioned to me that obviously you haven't done this before, you've stitched paper, a little unsure of perhaps what we're referring to when we say about stitching paper and about pages being stitched. Just to kind of break it down for you a bit, it does, I know perhaps when you first look, I know when I first started looking at junk journals and I was looking at people's pictures on Facebook and Pinterest, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, how do they do that? It's really, really simple. I say it's really simple. It's really simple. You've got a sewing machine. I haven't attempted to hand stitch a page. I'm not entirely certain I want to, but if you have got a sewing machine, I know some of the girls have got small ones. I know Mum has got a small tabletop one that she uses sometimes to do her pages. If there's not a lot of bulk in there, they are ideal for that. I think you can pick them up. Usually some places like supermarkets sometimes tend to do them. I know we have a shop over here called Aldi, and they very often do like special buys, and they may have things like that in stock now and again, but they're also an ideal thing to look for on places like Facebook Marketplace. Perhaps eBay. It's the kind of thing that probably people buy for children, or a well-meaning parent for a present for a parent maybe who perhaps isn't interested or hasn't used it, and they sell it on. So if you're not making wedding dresses and things like that, you really can go quite simple and straightforward with a machine if you want to stitch your pages, that is. I mean, it's not for everybody. Not everybody's bothered by it, but I just love the finish that it gives, really, and I think it just adds a little bit of decoration to the pages. So I'm going to just bring a few up to show you, so you can see. Yeah, that's about right there, isn't it? Yeah. So you can see with this one here, I've literally just gone down the edge there with a nice decorative stitch. I don't know what the stitch is called. It's the last one on my selection, but I know different machines do different stitches. I know Mum's is very different to mine, but I like that one. I think that's quite nice. I tend to use that on tags and things as well. Another option you can do there is just a simple zigzag stitch, and oh, there we are. And you'll notice that with some of them I've left the threads hanging loose. Now you can cut your threads off or you can leave them hanging loose. It's entirely up to you. Some people leave them hanging loose and they hang little charms, that's what I'm looking for, or things like that from them, but obviously just be careful you don't put anything too heavy on there, you don't want to tear your page. But and also if you want it to look a bit vintagey or a bit grungy, maybe if you were going for that style, again you'd want to leave your threads loose. So I've cut some and I've left some free. So let me show you what I've done with this page. This is another thing to think about when you are going to bind your journal. You want to think, like I said earlier, about if you've got any envelopes that you want to thread through. But another thing as well is if you were going to do a flip page, as I've done here. So I've put a little journal card in here. This is one of the ones, if you remember, we did with the collaging video. And I've just stitched that with a bit of fabric. And if you can see, but that's just so much easier to do that when it's not sewn into the book. And I've literally just used a bit of green fabric there that's got little flowers embroidered on it. I thought that was quite nice. And then in there then you'll have a journaling spot. But again, that's just much easier to do when it's out of the journal. This is another example of how you can use decorative stitching. You don't always just have to run a stitch up and down the side. Sometimes you might just want to add a little bit like that at the bottom of a page. I did get halfway through and noticed that my green was running out. I've used all the thread. I have no green left. So I was getting a little bit sparing then as I was going along and trying to think, right, how can I do this now without running out completely? So I did manage it though, I did the last page. So with this one here, I've just put a little bit of decorative stitch in the middle because this is a tuck. So there's a tuck behind and there's a tuck in front. And then I've literally just put a little bit of a running stitch down the edge there. And again, done the same. But I just think it looks quite effective. Suddenly, a white page now looks a bit more attractive in the book. Another thing that you can do, I've put this ledger page in. So I've again run a zigzag down the side, but this side I've left a flap in that can be opened. So I've stitched down the sides of the envelope flip, if you can see that there. But obviously to do that, I made sure I opened up my flaps, otherwise they'd have been stitched under there. So again, if you're looking at stitching, just always try to think that next step ahead. Right, if I'm running this here, what's going on behind? Because once you stitch it, that's it, it's in there then, and it's not going to budge. Again, just did a half the page there on that one. So again, it's just to add a little bit of decoration. When you've got older pages, you've got to be really careful stitching very old vintage paper. So I've just gone for a scraggy running stitch there because I think it fits the paper, and I didn't want to be punching too many holes in it because it can make it weak. Also, perhaps to bear in mind as well that when you're going to stitch older pages, try to not to go too close to the edge, because many a time I've done that and I've ended up tearing the page or what have you. Just remember, obviously they are quite fragile, but I do find once you've stitched it, that does feel now quite reinforced, you know, in your hand when you're turning the pages. I've stitched this one. Now this is handmade paper. Not very easy to stitch on. So I did a slight, a bit of a decorative stitch at the bottom, and then my page started to pull. So I thought, okay, we'll stop there. So I turned it around and I did a running stitch back up there then just to reinforce the edge of the page. But, you know, it's not always easy sewing on paper, but don't be frightened to do it. If you make a mistake, just do something different with it. You know, like I say, at the end of the day, there's no mistakes in junk journals. It's just how you want to do something. It's your interpretation of something, isn't it? Again, with this one, I just did a quick running stitch across that one there. I didn't do the back bit. And again here, just a bit of decorative stitch there. That page now looks a little bit more interesting. And then on the other side, I did the bottom half. So again, it's just little things like that really, where you can just pick and choose. I didn't put one on that page because I'm going to put a ruffle on there. Again, just a little running stitch. I've left that one there a bit scraggy on the end. I might end up cutting it. I don't know. I don't like loose thread, but there we are. This one here, this is a flip out bit. I haven't decided yet whether or not I'm going to stick this down, but I quite like it being able to move I may do something with that later, I'm not sure. So what I've done, I've put some stitch on the edge here, and then I've put some stitch on the top there. So I literally just opened the page to do that, and then ran the needle up and down both sides, and I've done the same then with the back page there. And again here, I've just left these threads loose now, and I've just done half a page. Just did a little bit of a zigzag on that one there. And I've used a running stitch then on that one. That was my last page. And I literally ran, and that was the end of my thread. So there we are. Whole thread of green used on this journal. It's great. So I think my journal certainly feels, my pages certainly feel a lot more bulky now already. So let's now look at how we are going to bind the journal into the cover. So I can't stress this enough. You can't check your pages too many times when you're binding, because once it's in, it's in. Well, it's not once it's in, it's in. You could always cut the thread, I suppose, and take it back out, but it's a bit drastic and a waste of your thread. So you don't really want to be rebinding your journal. So if you can, just take 5 before you commit to anything. Make sure you're happy with the placement of the pages. If anything doesn't feel right as you're flipping through it, take it out, move it, try it somewhere else. Sometimes we can start off with too many pages or not enough, so just double check that you're happy with both sides and that everything's the right way round and the right way up, unless it's meant to be upside down. I think it was Mum who said to me she never forgets that she put her first, one of her first journals, and she you know, you do get a bit nervous binding your journal. Even now I still get nervous binding journals, but she said she was that nervous putting it in, and then when she did it, then she rushed it and then opened it up and realised she'd sewn the signature in upside down. So again, just check, double check, triple check, and then check again just before you make the holes, and then you're good. Then you know you're all right. Because the thing is, if you do stitch it in upside down and then want to take it out and turn it around, the chances of those holes then matching are very slim. So you're going to end up with an extra set of holes in your journal and your pages. So yeah, that all looks good to me. I'm happy with that. Okay, obviously the longer you've been doing it, the easier it'll get. You'll get used to that feeling of holding your signatures between your fingers like that. The main aim is we need our pages to be as tight together here as possible. So you don't want pages like riding up and sliding forward. We need to keep that. So you might want to get one of your bone folders and just tamping gently down. But you just want to make sure that that's seated well and proper inside inside the journal. Another thing that you might like to do, I know some of our ladies, they clamp the journals, so you could use bulldog clip, and once you're satisfied that you've pushed that all the way down and you're happy with where it is, obviously bearing in mind the pages need to turn, you know, you need to be able to open the book. It hasn't all got to be that tight that you can't, you know, open it and write on it. But when you're putting your holes in, these edges here, the fold, that's the word I'm looking for. The fold needs to be seated neatly inside each fold, so that what you don't want is to be halfway up, then poking the awl and it coming out like halfway up a page. So that's why we're just being really careful now, making sure the bottom and the top are, well, it's the bottom you need to make sure is, so bang it in that way, bang it in that way, make sure it's all nice and flat, and then when you're happy, you can clamp it then if you want to, and then that just makes life a little bit easier because it tends to keep everything in place. Now, my preference are giant paper clips. I just like them. They don't get in my way, and I just find it's just an easier way. Usually when I first put a signature together, I keep my signature together then, you know, on the desk until I'm ready to stitch it in. I usually just put them like that, and it tends to keep it in the position it needs to be in. When you've put your signatures together, try not to leave them just flopped out open on the desk, because it stretches then on that spine, and you're going to find then when you do come to sewing them in, it's all a little bit floppy. So if you can keep them in position as best you can, the better really. And you can position that nice and low down there, and that'll again then just reinforce what you want to do. So just try and make sure nothing's riding, That's the most important bit, getting everything in place, because once you make the holes, like I say, that's it then. You don't want to be doing it over and over and over. So I'm going to pick up my journal now. Now this is the bit I've got to be careful of now, because I've got to remember now which one of these is up the right way. So sometimes if you're using a heavily collaged page, so you might have one with like the one in the middle, you know, where you've got all like labels and things all turning the other way. It's not always easy to know which way up. So just make sure you double check, find the page with writing on or something like that, or make sure you know it's the front of the journal. Make sure that's the top. So I know I've got my little flowers here at the top and all these threads are at the top. So I'm going to have a little look now where it positions itself. Excuse me, with my teeth in. I'm obviously looking for it to sit slightly between my stitching there. Now a trick that my mum showed me how to do was, and I'm looking at my desk now so I can't find my little bit of card. I've tidied it away. Okay, I'll try and explain that again. I was doing that really badly then. These are examples of templates that I've used in the past. So this one is obviously one I would use on a A5 journal. And as you can see, I've got holes in there that show where I wanted my holes. And you would put that then in the center page and use it as your template. And then you would put it then on your cover and use it as a template. Just make sure that your holes go in the same place. So if you're not comfortable doing it with your hands loose, you can do it with, so this is one I've obviously used for an A4. I know it sits there nicely inside the lines of my thing. So I would just tack that in place, put my holes in, and then using the same holes, that's the most important thing, the same holes, then you drop it inside your journal like this, hold it in place, and then you'd use that then to put your holes in. Does that make sense? I hope I'm being really clear there. But that is literally just a piece of card folded in half, used for that purpose. So let's have a little look and we'll see how we get on. Okay, so let's see. I've got that there now. Now, if you're not going to use a template, you may want to clamp your pages to your journal so that nothing moves. So as I say, some people prefer to make a set of holes in this and then a set of holes in that. I personally don't. I used to do it that way. I don't do it that way anymore just because my eyes are not the best, and I find once I make the hole, I like to get the needle straight through it. So I'm just going to thread my needle. My bad, I should have done that first. When you are taking your thread off, you want to aim for about, I usually go for 2.5 lengths of my journal. And that should be enough thread then, because you're going to go through 3 times, or say 3 lengths then. But if you wanted to add like charms dangling out to the bottom, you might want to leave a little bit more on there. But as you saw in my binding kits when I did the mini journal one, I got quite a few ends. So I'm trying to be a little bit sparing now because my reels are coming to an end now. Right, so that's done ready. Where's my pin cushion gone? Somebody's moved everything on my desk. I don't know where anything is this morning, which is not great. Never mind. Right, okay. I'm nervous doing this in front of you all. This is like, I get quite stressed sometimes binding my journals. I don't know why, but I'm always afraid it's going to go all horribly wrong. It hasn't yet, but it's just one of those things. Like I say, you know, once the holes are in, they're in. And I'm really conscious that this is going to be one of your journals. So I'm trying my very best here not to make a mess of this. Now I'm going to probably have to stand up now so I can see, because I don't want to get my head in your way. So, like I said, let's just put that clamp on there so you can see what I mean by clamping the pages to the book. Right, so I'm happy now with the top end where it's positioned and then the bottom end. So now I'm going to look to make my holes. I'm going to take my awl down into the center, so you can measure if you want to measure. I'm really not that fussy. You know me, I don't measure anything. But not only that, I'm going to be covering up my binding on the outside. So as long as there's 3 in there and it's nice and tight and firm and everything stays in place, I'm happy with that. So just literally push it down all the way down into your cork. Sorry, I should have pointed out then, there is a cork underneath my book. Can you see that? It's just to stop me damaging my lovely new cutting board. And then pull him through, holding everything as tight as possible now because we don't want to move those holes. I'm going to go down and I'm going to put another hole in there, all the way through. Perfect. Oh, I've got a jack-in-the-box one. And then our final hole. I apologise if I'm right in your ear because I'm stood by the microphone. Oh, this is fiddly today. I don't normally make this much of a mess of it, I do promise. And then down the final hole, all the way down, and then pull that out. Terrific. And you should be able to see through there now. I don't know if you can see the light coming through those 3 holes. Okay, so we're done with that, and we're done with that, I hope. Okay, so let's take our thread, trying to keep everything as in position as possible. We're going to go down through the centre hole. There we are, so needle out there. And we're going to go back up through this one here. And when you pull it through, you need to leave about that much. That was technical, wasn't it? About that much, you need to leave that through. So don't pull it all the way through. And then we're going to pull that tail end now over the side. I do hope you can see what I'm doing. And I'm now going to go back in the other side of my thread. So I probably lost my hole now moving the back, but I just want to show you all. If you can see, I hope that's in focus now. So I've gone through that hole there and I've come back through this one. And I'm holding the tail end of the cotton here. And I'm now going to go back into the middle hole, but on the other side of the thread. I hope that makes sense. This is where it can get a bit fiddly, especially if you've got stuff stitched on you. Oh no, we're good, we're all right. What I have had a tendency to do is where the needle has come out, I've sometimes gone through the existing piece of thread and then, oh, I get in a mess then. But no, that's good, it's nice and clean coming through there. Great. And then just pull that there. Obviously, we're not worried about pulling it too tight, we can tighten everything else up afterwards. Now, this is where it can get a bit tricky sometimes because as you can see, I've got this lovely piece of embroidery on my spine here now, which is kind of preventing me seeing where my hole is that I've got to go back through. Don't panic. All we're going to do, we're going to line it all back up nice and neat again. You're going to get your cork, take your awl, find your hole and gently poke it back through because that hole is still there. It's not gone anywhere. There we go. Now I can see where my hole is because I've just poked the awl back through it. So what I do sometimes, if I'm really struggling, this is why I didn't put the lace on this yet. I'll put the lace on afterwards because if this had been covered in, smothered, I should perhaps say, in lace, this is really difficult. Pardon me, this is really difficult trying to see then where you're going. So what I tend to do then sometimes is I will literally take my needle and I'll follow the awl back in through the hole. So as that's receding, my nail's following. There we go. Nails, not nails, needle. There we go. And there he is. Ta-da! Marvellous. There we are, look. I made that seem much more difficult than I needed it to. Get that through there now. It's a bit tough sometimes if you've got layers, but there we go. So once you get to the other side, you're going to take your needle now and you're going to just tuck it under the bit that was already done at the top. You can take your needle off now so you don't go catching your hand with that. Where's my... Right. I'm going to stick me sharp things back on my cork. Okay, so let's have a look on the outside now. Just make sure everything is nice and tidy. Nothing's flapping out the way. This is a little bit loose, so I'll pull that a bit tighter inside, but that's fine. I'm happy with that. They're in line, and that's great. There's nothing catching on it. So all I need to do now is to, I can't pick anything up today. Pull them a bit tighter. Now this is the point at which I then take off all my bindings, because if something isn't quite right, now I'm going to spot it, and at least I can do something about it before I tie a knot. Oh, I got that on there This is why I don't like loose threads. I thought, oh, this will be a nice, easy video to do today. It'll be nice and simple. No, it won't. I've been putting this off. I've been procrastinating, as my son says, for about a week doing this, because I know I get in a knot sometimes. So see, I've been making journals now for a little while. I've done quite a few, and I still get in a knot when I got to buy my journals. So it's not just when you're new that you find it scary. And I don't know why, because when it's done, you think, oh, what was all the fuss about? So, and then once you've done your knot then, so I've done one knot. It's entirely up to you what you want to do. You can either do a double knot and then leave them hanging down if you want to put a charm, which I may do with this one. I haven't decided yet. Or if you're still not quite sure, you can just put a little bow in it and then pop that in the centre flat. Now, I'm not going to cut this at the minute, purely because I haven't yet decided whether to hang a charm on there. So I'm just going to leave myself the option to do that. But otherwise, if I was just leaving a bow with the binding, I would just cut that neatly there, and that would be that. But, hey presto, we now have a bound journal. Look at that. Fantastic. Now she's starting to feel like a book. Okay, so let's have a quick look. Here we are. You can open it nice and flat. That's lovely. And now we can look at all our pages, and it's all looking great. There we are. Phew, thank goodness for that. That wasn't a disaster, it all went well. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for today. In the next video now, we will start putting in our pockets and tags. No, not our tags, our pockets and tucks. And I will start embellishing then the pages, so that you'll be able to start to see what the finished product is going to look like. Okay, thanks ever so much for joining me again today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't yet subscribed, if you wouldn't mind clicking subscribe and clicking on the bell, and then you'll be notified then when I upload future videos. Also, again, just a reminder, I'm really conscious of time now with the giveaway. There's not many days left. You'll be able to win this lovely journal. So just follow the link that is in on the giveaway video. I'll also repost the link for the giveaway in this video as well, just as a save you trawling around if you can't find it. But yeah, just follow the directions in there, and there are opportunities for you to have multiple entries to the competition. So if you do all of the things that are listed on there, you can earn up to, I think it's about 20 entries. So that means your name will go in 20 times. You'll have 20 more times the chance of winning one of the prizes. All right, everybody have a great day, and I will be back with you very soon. Bye now.